पश्चात देश तारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर डिवाइन ग्रेस एसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शिला प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर डिवाइन ग्रेस भक्ति सिद्धांत गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की जय। नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड, राधा कुंड, गिरी गोधाम कीजिए, वृंदावन धाम कीजिए, मथुरा धाम कीजिए, मायापुर नदी धाम कीजिए, जगन्नाथपुरी धाम कीजिए, गंगा मई जमुना मई कीजिए, तुलसी देवी भक्ति देवी की जय, समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga.
Jai Jai, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mahesh Panditji.
Hare.
And Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome for Srimad Bhagavatam with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. It's Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025 in New York. And today we're picking up Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 13, text number 40. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sasharasanam Udyamya Vigayor Vanagochara Hantya Sadhur Mrigandinan Venosa Vityarojjana. After fixing his bow and arrow, the cruel boy used to go to the forest and unnecessarily kill innocent deer. And as soon as he came, all the people would cry, "Here comes cruel Vena! Here comes cruel Vena." Purport: Kshatriyas are allowed to hunt in the forest for the purpose of learning the killing art, not to kill animals for eating or for any other purpose. The Kshatriya kings were sometimes expected to cut off the head of a culprit in the state. For this reason, the Kshatriyas were allowed to hunt in the forest. Because this son of King Anga, Vena, was born of a bad mother, he was very cruel, and he used to go to the forest and unnecessarily kill the animals. All the neighboring inhabitants would be frightened by his presence, and they would call, "Here comes Vena, here comes Vena." So from the beginning of his life, he was fearful to the citizens. Om Jnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Vanchakalpatarubhyas Chakripasindubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yesterday we were discussing how a devotee is supposed to be tolerant. And here what's happening is that the son of King Anga, who's a devotee, is so outrageous in his behavior that it was more than the king could tolerate. It was more. It drove him over the edge of reasonable. Just like yesterday, we were bringing up the so many examples of family life being unfortunate and driving the devotees to further renunciation. I was thinking how when Srila Prabhupada's wife, former wife, decided it would be a good idea to barter the Srimad Bhagavatam for tea biscuits, that was more than Prabhupada could tolerate. That was beyond the beyond, as they say. So, Hare Krishna. Maharaj, would you like to say anything here?
Prabhupada quotes Sarpakrura Kala Krura, the Chanakya Pandit. The meaning is that between a snake and a cruel person, the snake is better because the snake can be charmed with mantras, but about a cruel person, nothing can be done. So that cruel person is found in Vena. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Mahesh Panditji, would you like to pick up with our narration?
Okay, number 41. Akride kridato balan vayashyana didaruna prasanya niranukshosha marayat. The boy was so cruel that by playing with young boys of his age, he would kill them very mercilessly, as if they were animals meant for slaughter. Wow, amazing stuff, huh? The way he would kill them. Very cruel. Number 42.
Oh, whoa.
Oh, okay, sorry.
You're running away. There may be something on this verse. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Palakaya Chakshun Militam Jaina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Jaina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamai Yam Dadati Shapadantaka. The Tanaham Drishata Kruran Sangsareshu Naradam. The nature of the demonic is described in the Bhagavad Gita. What is that, 16th chapter, where Krishna says speaks of those who are envious and mischievous. And Prabhupada says from the wombs of their mothers, they're like this. There are people who, on account of their past accumulation of sinful activities and their severe causeless unwillingness to turn toward Krishna, are simply cruel in nature. They take pleasure in cruelty. And we find that Mrigari took pleasure in half-killing animals. And there are people who, this is what they do. They take pleasure in seeing others suffer. That tendency is there from the demonic nature. I know there were two kids down the block from me, and that was my impression of them, that they were just, I avoided them because they were just cruel. They were mean. And what was I thinking? Oh yeah, my mother told me many years later that their father invited my father over to watch some porn with him, which an invitation my father declined. But that's the kind of family tradition, and that's the kind of mentality, just cruel, vicious. And such people do find their way into politics, into corporate dealings, into so many different fields of life, and they exercise their tendency to be mean, nasty, cruel. It becomes like fashion. We can use that, what is it, criminal chic, models who are mean, nasty, they look like they're criminals, and you can imagine all the criminal things they do. And this is cool. So, of course, here it's taken to the outrageous extremes that Vena would play with his friends and murder them. And that was his sport. But I remember a friend who he showed me something cool that you could you go to the local stream and you could scoop up a few guppies and put them on the shore and train a magnifying glass on them until they popped like popcorn from heat. So taking pleasure in cruel and vicious activities. It's not just an imagination. Hare Krishna.
Saraswati Mastery writes, Pranams Parampuja Maharaj and all the Vaishnavas. Although Satriyas are allowed to hunt, it seems like a risky proposition because even for Raj Rishis like King Dasarat Pandava, they got cursed by inadvertently killing innocent people and getting cursed. King Parikshit also got cursed while hunting. Also, King Dushyant ended up infatuated with Shakuntala while hunting. Serves as a cautionary tale? Question mark.
Well, what is that? Sarvaramba Hidoshena Tume Nagniri Vavrita. In the Bhagavad Gita, it said that everything comes with faults. Just as fires comes with smoke, every endeavor comes with faults associated with it. If you're a Brahmin, you may be called upon to chant some, to perform some sacrifice for some impure or ill-motivated person. If you're a Kshatriya, then you've described some of the troubles one can get into. If one is a Vaishya, one cheats, and one can get into, what's the word, vicious competition, where we do things to our competitors that may be up to the point of murder and more. If we're Shudras, we may have to serve a bad master. So there's risks. Of course, one is not supposed to, as a Vaishya, do those kind of things. But even if we just do normal business, we tell lies, we do things, and one can get in trouble. If you're a king and you can get in trouble with Shakuntala, well, if you're a shop owner, you can get in trouble with a customer. So there's risk, padam yad vipadam. Everywhere in the material world, there's risk. Therefore, one has to take shelter of Krishna.
Saraswati Mataji writes, some scientists believe there is a gene that is a marker for potential psychopath/sociopath, but I don't know if this can be true.
I don't know if it can be true either. Maybe Ross is in a better position to say. He's involved in related issues. Just from my side, the body itself comes with as almost a symbol of one's past karma. Because of one's past karma, one gets this kind of body, that kind of body, and this kind of mind, that kind of mind. You can look at a person practically, and he'll look like a thug. Everything radiates thug about him. Just as you can look at a saintly person, everything radiates saintliness. So for this to be reflected in some aspect of the physical embodiment, even what would you say, on the micro level, wouldn't be surprising. Ross, do you have something to say about that?
No, I'm not sure what to say, I don't know.
Okay.
Mahesh Pandit Prabhu, do you want to read another verse?
Okay. Tam vichaksha khalam putram shasane videnupa yadana shashitu tum kalpo brushamasi sudurmana. After seeing the cruel and merciless behavior of his son, Vena, King Anga punished him in different ways to reform him. But was unable to bring him to the path of gentleness. He thus became greatly aggrieved. So he tried his best to improve him, but he got really disturbed. Yes. Number 43. Pranayam.
We're charging ahead again, aren't we?
Oh, sorry. Okay, go ahead.
It's good. Just leave the opportunity for other devotees to comment, and then then we can move on. The Shashanai Vividhai Nipa. Here it's indicated that according to Vedic culture, punishment is acceptable or even warranted for children. It's not that they should be mercilessly thrashed or mistreated, but punishment is a form of discipline, and without discipline, a child will be unfortunate. Prabhupada tells the story of a murderer. Actually, whatever his difficulties, he had a very kind aunt who was always indulgent with him and always sympathetic to him. And somehow the child grew up to be a rogue and finally a murderer, and he was sentenced to hang. But on the gallows, he asked for a last wish, that he wanted to say something to his aunt. So his aunt drew near, and they put her ear close to him to hear, and he bit her ear. And naturally she screamed, but why? This is what I've come to you to, because you simply pampered me and there was no discipline. So now this is what it's come to. So Chanakya Pandit says that one should discipline a son or a disciple. Prabhupada followed that. He didn't just, sometimes it's imagined these days that Prabhupada was infinitely understanding, infinitely tolerant, infinitely willing to just, infinitely accepting whatever the disciples did. He just took the good part, and which is totally opposite to Prabhupada's actual history. He would blast us right, left, and center. You have no brain. You have cow dung for brain. You're a fool. What is the use of you? You are very intelligent, meaning you're useless. In so many ways, Prabhupada would, and he, sometimes wouldn't let up. He'd really dress someone down. There's histories there, the stories there. One time, how he reduced Guru Kripa Maharaj, a man of steel, to tears. So Prabhupada followed that. He could be very pleased and very affectionate and very tolerant also, but when he thought it appropriate, could totally smash you. So it's the duty of the, Prabhupada would quote that it's the duty of the father or the spiritual master to discipline the son or the disciple. What is that? In Bhagavad Gita also, of ways of curbing miscreants and punishment. Dando Dhammayata must be. So this is, we have well, I don't want to get into discussion of changing sociological values and all of that kind of stuff. but according to Shastra, and Shastra means, actually it comes from the same root, Shastatu, Shastra, Shishya, Shashan, Shishya. A disciple is someone who's to be disciplined. Shastra is a code of discipline. And Shastra means weapons. Shastra means Vedic literature. They all come from this same root, Shastatu, which involves discipline. So when the king saw Vichaksha that Vena was cruel, then Vividhai Shashana, by different kinds of punishments, he tried to set him straight. Not because the king was cruel, but because he sincerely had the welfare of the son at heart. But na shashitum kopa. It didn't work. There was nothing he could do. No amount of punishment would work. And presumably before you try punishment, you try rewards and inducements and good instructions and so on. But nothing worked. And therefore, Sudurmana, he became exceedingly despondent or grieved. Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, doesn't it look like he didn't do enough to discipline him?
No, it doesn't look that way to me, because Vividhai, he tried all sorts of ways. It's not, and it seems that he was Vena was a case that there was nothing you can do. There are cases in which no amount of discipline, no amount of argument, no amount of anything will work. The grandson of death personified could not be brought to any kind of standard. Just like sometimes a child is a fool. It's just, nothing can be done. You can't make him smart by tutors or by sympathetic, sitting with him and helping him through his lessons or anything like that. He's just impossible. So it doesn't seem, there's no indication that Maharaj Anga was at fault. It's explicitly stated here. He tried everything. He tried all sorts of ways to bring the boy under control, and finally everything failed. And so the king was just had to live with this grief. Nothing could be done.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Saraswati Mataji writes, as children, our greatest fear was our parents withdrawing their love for us and being disappointed with us due to our misbehavior.
Yes, that's powerful. And words are powerful. I was on a subway platform one time. There was a fair amount of time before the train was supposed to come. And there was a cop there. He was armed with a taser and a gun and a little club. So I was chatting him up a little bit, especially about the taser. He didn't like the taser because when you taser someone, it shoots a wire and inserts it projects a hook into the skin of the person that you're assailing. And then the rule is, according to New York police codes, that you have to take the person to the hospital, and it gets all complicated and paperwork and this and that. So the taser wasn't his preferred weapon. But he said, my best weapon's my mouth. My best weapon is my mouth. That's the preferred weapon, just by strong words, strong language. I saw that the other day. Someone that was a lady, respectable looking lady, was trying to evade a fare by going through through an open gate, and there was a cop there, and he gave it to her verbally, told her in no uncertain terms that she should go back out, and she'd been caught. So he didn't have to shoot her, he didn't have to beat her, he just had to lay into her with his mouth, and that did it. So it's not that children need to be just instantly beaten and all of that. But there are occasions where the child should be severely punished. And we won't go into what those occasions might be, or what the suitable punishment might be. That'll get me into all sorts of areas that I don't want to go to. It should not be cruel, though. That's clear. And one should be controlled. One should not be, what's the word? Just a victim of one's own passions. One has to discipline himself, first of all. Okay.
Praveen Krishna Prabhu writes, Alayat Pancha Varsani, Dasha Varsani Tadayat, Papte tu Sudase Varse, Putra Mitra Vad Acharit. One should fondle his son up to the point of 5 years old. Thereafter, one should administer punishment for the next 10 years. But when one's son reaches the age of 16, one should act as a friend towards him.
Doesn't mean he's just continuously punished for 10 years, but one is strong. First, Prabhupada said they're like animals till 5 years. Let them do whatever they want. That also is not unlimited, but indulgence. Then discipline, and then friendship. I recently read a quote. Prabhupada was talking about beards and hair and how they're objectionable. He said we're known for being shaven-headed, and now we're becoming long hair-headed. And he said this is a discrepancy. And then he said that, but you're older students now, so I can't force you. But I beg you with folded hands that please do not become long hair-headed. Every once in a month on the Purnima, you should shave your heads. So on. And now you're older students say, if I apply discipline, then you'll break. So I'm just requesting you with folded hands. Hare Krishna.
Rari Gupta Prabhu writes, Hare Krishna Maharaj, I've seen that mothers in the village can be ferocious in their punishment, but they compensate with an abundance of love.
Yes, even Yashoda Mai tied Krishna up. So we don't know what would have happened to her if she were in ISKCON today, but she tied Krishna up. But she's described as the greatest well-wisher of her son. We're not recommending tying children up, but she did.
She threw her the stick, so he won't be fearful.
Yeah, she showed it to him, like you're going to get it. But when she saw how fearful Krishna was, whether it was genuine or whether Krishna was feigning, either way, she became sympathetic and thought that no. And so she, yes, threw away the stick. But she did tie him up. And yes, the real thing is not cruelty and taking pleasure in seeing a child suffer, but out of a sincere love and concern for the child, which is the main thing. And Prabhupada said about the Gurukul, you should show the stick, but don't hit them. Okay.
Praveen Krishna Prabhu writes, isn't it irresponsible for King Anga to leave the kingdom without rectifying the situation? He could have waited a little longer when the Brahmanas cursed Vena.
Yes, he, what's the word? Abdicated or set aside all responsibilities. He was so extremely Durmana aggrieved that he just left. It's hopeless, nothing can be done. I've tried to. So yes, and normally we think, no, I'm responsible, I have to be responsible. But there sometimes comes a point where you say, there's nothing I can do. And you may leave. Sarva dharma pratyajya.
Hare Krishna. I was going to see whether Madhupati Prabhu could read.
Okay. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutala Gurudaksh Jayadvaita Swami. Prayana Abhyarchita Devo Ye Aprajagrih Medina Tad Apatya Bhitam Dukkham Yena Vindanti Durbharam. The king thought to himself, persons who have no son are certainly fortunate. They must have worshipped the Lord in their previous lives, so that they would not have to suffer the unbearable happiness caused by a bad son. Perfect. It is said that a married couple must have a son, otherwise their family life is void. But a son born without good qualities is as good as a blind eye. A blind eye has no use for seeing, but it is simply unbearably painful. The king therefore thought himself very unfortunate to have such a bad son. The King Anga, seeing his son and Vena and doing all these cruel things, he was greatly aggrieved and was considering himself very unfortunate. Right? Prabhupada mentions that normally for a married couple, they must have a son, otherwise their family life is void. But if a son is born with bad qualities, he is as good as a blind eye. Right. So it becomes extremely painful for the parents when the son, which they have nicely tried to raise him, has gotten these bad qualities from, in this case, we see from birth, from the bad qualities of the mother. who was a daughter of death personified Mrityu. But that's why King Anga is greatly aggrieved and is considering himself as very unfortunate to have Anga as his son, to have Vena as his son. Yeah, that's all I have.
You'll recall that earlier in the narrative, the king was distressed because he had no son. Especially for the king, to have a son is crucial so that the boy will be there to inherit the throne. But he had no son, and he was distraught about that. But now he says those who have no sons are better than those who are afflicted with kadapatya, with a bad son. So kadapatya vitam dukkam, the bad son just causes misery, and that's also there. This whole section is rather heavy on Chanakya Pandit, or rich with Chanakya Pandit references, allusions. So there also, if there's one fragrant tree in the forest, the whole forest becomes fragrant. But if there's fire in the hollow of one tree, the whole forest burns down. So a family may be glorified or degraded by the behavior of the son. A bad son can ruin the whole dynasty, and a good son glorifies its whole family. As devotees, one should think that I should be a good son of my spiritual master, so that my spiritual master and his mission will be glorified. Not that it becomes known that my Guru Maharaj's disciples acted as rogues. They were irresponsible and heedless of regulative principles, so on. One, just like Prabhupada, the one good son glorified his whole lineage. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Bhaktivinoda Thakur and others are glorified all over the world because of one good son. So we should try to follow in the footsteps of the good son of the spiritual master.
Saraswati Mathji writes, barren women are not respected much. In fact, they are considered a bad omen. First, they would not be invited to certain ceremonies, especially God Barai, sort of baby shower. Childless couples are considered very unlucky and looked down on in many cultures. I have a friend, a well-known psychologist, who couldn't have children and adopted a daughter, turned out a drug addict like her biological mother, and ready to attack my friend for drug money. So my friend also regrets adopting such a child.
Barren women and sannyasis are very inauspicious at these social functions.
We have time for a couple more verses. Philip Prabhu, could you read up to text 46, perhaps?
All right. I actually have one question for Maharaj, if that's all right, before starting.
Sure.
I'm curious in terms of adoption. I know also the story of Ted Bundy. The serial killer was an adopted child, and I'm curious what the Vaishnava perspective is on adopting children, since we're not actually doing any of the rituals for bringing a good soul into the womb of the mother.
Adoption is authorized in Vedic culture. Our Krishna was an adopted child. So it's completely accepted. And there are other examples, quite a number of examples, actually. Even, who was it? The king who gave his daughter in marriage on the condition that he would get the child. I've forgotten which king that was, but because he knew that that child would be an incarnation of the personality of Godhead. So even that was done. Here it says that Prabhu says that was Manu. Yes. So but in any case, yes, adoption is there. But here it's indicated that one should be careful about whom one adopts. Particularly, you don't know of course, the nature of the child, but the nature of the parents can be looked at. But yes, adoption is sometimes it's a child of very good. The parents of very good parents may die in an auto accident or something like that, leaving a child. So, in any case, yes, adoption is acceptable.
I see there are two more questions. Should we go through those first?
I guess we should.
Murari Gupta Prabhu writes, why are kingdoms traditionally passed on by birth alone and not by qualification? A prince has to be really bad to be excluded from the throne.
Of course, generally in the Vedic culture, in the Varnashram culture, it was expected that the child of a qualified family would also be well qualified. At the birth of Parikshit, the inquiry was made of the astrologers, will he be a fitting descendant of his forefathers? Will he be noble? Will he be dutiful? And so on. So it was expected. The advantage, they were very careful about about what we call breeding, what we used to call breeding, about the education and upbringing of the child, because it was so important to have a suitable successor. But one could be excluded from the line, not even for being terrible, but just because they're far more qualified candidate. Was it in the line of the Pandavas? Was it Bharat Maharaj? I forget what the history was there, but the natural biological heir was passed by in favor of a more qualified person to rule. So it wasn't rigid that no, we have to accept a less qualified person because we go by birth only. The birth was a natural indicator, but and it was with the samskars and so on. It was expected that a qualified child would be born of a qualified family, and so much care was taken for that. But in the event that there was someone more qualified, a wise king could overstep that rule. Maybe someone can fill me in, someone who knows Mahabharata well, about that history that I mentioned. Anyway, I hope that answers the question. But yes, if you're you're naturally meant to inherit, just like in business, the father naturally, this is Kshatriya, so they pass down the kingdom. If you're in business, naturally it's expected that your son will inherit the business. That's quite normal. Nobody says, "Oh, why by birth?" It's just normal that business is handed over to your son or to your children. And there's so many businesses, such and sons, and then the son becomes the proprietor. But if he's a fool and a rascal, then the father may say, no, I can't, I'll set up a trust fund for you or something, or give you an inheritance, but not the business because you'll ruin it. You just can't. You're the wrong person. But it often happens that the person born in the family is the right person. The New York Times was run by the Sulzberger family, I believe, and the editor was there. I've forgotten, Sulzberger, whatever, and he was of retirement. He was planning succession for the New York Times, and they had a whole arrangement. And the son was an educated boy, but he was interested in anything but journalism. He took up some other direction in life, some other career, whatever. But in the end, just by force of circumstances, he wound up being the editor-in-chief of the New York Times, and sort of turned the magazine around at a time, the newspaper around at a time when it was really quite desperately in need of direction. So it was his destiny, his karma, his fate that called out to him and practically compelled him to become the successful editor-in-chief of the New York Times. So it happens even in non-Kshatriya contexts, even non-Varnashram contexts. Hare Krishna.
Saraswati Mahji writes, wasn't Kunti Mata given away for adoption? Also, her eldest son, Karna, was adopted too.
Yes, Karna was an adopted child. Kunti, yes. Of course, the circumstances with Karna were not ordinary, but yes, adoption is there. There are quite a number of examples.
All right, Krishna, looking at the time, maybe good time to pause for kirtan rather than get into deeper, our sort of beloved deep discussions on just a few verses or even a single verse. So perhaps, Philip, if you'd like, you could lead us in our outgoing kirtan, if that's all right.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Pariprajaka Ashtotra Sri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadip Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. And Madhupati fills us in that Bharat Maharaj adopted the son of Maruts, known as Bharadwaj. Thank you, Madhupati.
And thank you, Philip, for the kirtan. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Holiness Jayadvaita Maharaj ki jai.
Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande.
Hari Hari Bol. Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Hesh Pandit Prabhu. Thank you to all. Hare Krishna.